One of the most painful human experiences is not being rejected outright. It is being chosen only after someone else was picked first. There is a specific quiet pattern many people carry, a persistent sense of being the reliable second option, the backup friend, the person called only once the first choice fell through, and this specific experience often produces a considerably deeper, more lasting ache than a clean, direct rejection ever manages to. Carl Jung's understanding of complexes formed around conditional worth offers a precise explanation for why being overlooked, specifically in favor of someone else, lands with this particular kind of weight. Jung believed that a person internalizes, often very early, specific beliefs about their own worth based on the actual repeated patterns of attention and preference they experience in their earliest relationships. A child who was consistently chosen second, whether by a parent who favored a sibling, by friends who included them only when a preferred companion was unavailable, or through countless smaller cumulative moments of being the fallback rather than the first pick, develops a specific sensitive complex organized around this exact theme: conditional worth, valued genuinely but never quite valued first. This explains why being chosen second in adulthood so reliably reactivates something considerably larger than the actual present situation seems to warrant, since the specific sting is rarely only about this one instance. It is about an old accumulated pattern finally finding new matching material to attach itself to, and the actual pain being felt in the present moment often carries the full accumulated weight of every earlier instance this same theme was ever activated by, than reflecting only the objective size of the current single event. Here is what makes rejection feel paradoxically less painful than being chosen second. Genuine rejection is at least clean and complete, offering a clear, if difficult, resolution. This person does not want you, full stop. Being chosen second is considerably more ambiguous and considerably more corrosive, since it confirms that you were genuinely wanted, just never quite enough to be wanted first. And this specific partial acceptance can feel worse than total rejection, precisely because it offers just enough genuine connection to keep you invested, while never fully resolving the underlying painful question of why you were never actually anyone's first choice. Jung's understanding suggests this pattern, left unexamined, tends to shape a person's entire approach to relationships and opportunities, producing either a persistent, exhausting effort to finally earn the first choice position that has always felt just out of reach, or a genuine protective withdrawal from investing fully in relationships where being chosen second once again feels like the likely expected outcome. Neither response actually resolves the underlying complex. Both simply continue orbiting around it in opposite directions. Here is what makes this understanding genuinely useful rather than simply an explanation for a painful pattern. Recognizing that this specific ache traces back to an old accumulated complex, rather than reflecting an accurate objective measure of your actual worth, is the necessary first step toward genuinely examining it rather than continuing to unconsciously recreate situations that confirm it. The actual current instance of being chosen second is rarely as significant as the old, accumulated pattern makes it feel, and separating the present situation from this older, larger weight is real, valuable work. Here is what actually helps in doing this work directly. It helps to notice honestly the next time this specific ache arises, whether the actual present situation genuinely warrants this intensity of reaction, or whether it is activating something considerably older and more accumulated, since this distinction alone often reduces some of the pain's automatic disproportionate pull. It also helps to actively seek out and build relationships where you genuinely are the first, considered choice, rather than only continuing to invest in dynamics that reliably confirm the old familiar pattern. since this deliberate seeking provides real, felt evidence against a belief that may have simply never been adequately challenged before. There is a second, genuinely important piece worth understanding. This pattern does not mean you are genuinely destined to remain everyone's second choice indefinitely. It reflects an old, specific complex formed through genuinely difficult early experience, one that can be examined, understood, and gradually loosened through honest, patient work, rather than a permanent, unchangeable verdict on your actual inherent worth. If you recognize this specific ache of consistently being chosen second, hear this clearly. This was never accurate evidence of your genuine worth, and it does not mean you are destined to remain in this position indefinitely. According to Jung's understanding, it very often reflects an old, accumulated complex around conditional worth, one that deserves honest, patient examination rather than continued unconscious repetition. Think honestly about your own history of being chosen second, and consider whether you can trace this specific pattern back to an early relationship or environment where this exact theme was first repeatedly established. Right below the single word for the relationship or environment where you suspect this pattern first began. Naming it honestly is the real and practical first step toward finally separating an old accumulated complex from the actual present relationships and opportunities in front of you now. There is a final piece worth naming, since it offers real practical hope beyond simply understanding the pattern. As this old complex gets genuinely examined and gradually loosened, people often find that their actual capacity to be chosen first increases as well, not because the world suddenly changes, but because a person who no longer unconsciously expects and accepts second place tends to carry themselves and choose their relationships in ways that genuinely reflect this shift. Because consistently being chosen second was never, according to Carl Jung's understanding, an accurate measure of your genuine worth. It was an old accumulated complex formed through genuinely difficult early experience, and understanding this honestly was always the real practical path toward finally building relationships where you are chosen first, not because you finally earned it, but because you stopped unconsciously recreating the pattern that always told you that you had not.